be joined with the chairman and CEO of Pharmadrug, Mr. Daniel Cohen joins us once again. Daniel, how are things?
Things are really, really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
A lot of news obviously developing. How you feel in the industries, obviously in the biotech side, the psychedelic side. I know it's been a little flat as far as the markets are concerned, but what's the feedback been as far as the overall back end and when it comes to business and how things are developing? Because more and more people I talk to, it just continues to advance at a rapid pace.
It's actually an interesting time because the markets have come off, and most of the psychedelic stocks have done a big retracement over the past couple of months. But from a business development side, it's busier than it was back in November, December, and January. We've had two different sets of fury of press releases that really had a lot of initiatives started. We've expanded on those initiatives. And we're going to have further developments and new initiatives started over the next 3 months. We are hard at work. We're moving at a fast pace. And the next 6 months are going to be tremendous for Pharmadrug and its shareholders.
Yeah, well, let's focus on the biotech side first with your ongoing research with DMT at the University of Michigan and saprophyrin. DMT seems to be taking a lot of notice and attention over the last couple of weeks. But what is some of these announcements that you've made recently, what they mean today? But like you said, is it teeing up obviously for more further information later on this year?
Yeah, we have a lot going on. So firstly, right off the bat, we announced Stephen Barker joining us, who has been a leading academic on the DMT side. We announced the initiative with University of Michigan to be able to fund Dr. Gimo's work. She's done some groundbreaking work in terms of truly understanding DMT and its function in the human brain, and we're helping her further her work to really understand DMT's role. But we've started our own efforts as well. As we've seen that we've gotten orphan drug status from the FDA to use DMT for kidney transplants. We are the first company on the planet to receive orphan drug status for DMT.
How did that all come to fruition? If you can walk me through, how did that all come to fruition? If you can walk me through.
Look, the reality is we were just staking claims. We're doing all our work. We're doing our internal research. We're collaborating with people. And we started looking for different ways in which we can potentially use DMT. And just scouring through all the research that's already been done out there, we fell upon that one. And we felt it made a lot of sense. There are part of the reason why we're doing work with Dr. Gimo is that, with DMT existing in the human brain, being produced in the human brain, the body has a purpose for it, and we don't fully understand it. We fully support the work being done in psychedelics for psychiatric indications and ailments, but we don't think that that's the only thing that DMT or other psychedelics can be used for. And so the kidney transplant is a great example of how DMT could be used to, calm an organ during an operation, during a procedure, being able to have anti-inflammatory aspects to it, anti-oxidative. And so could we be using that for kidneys? Could we be using that for other ailments in the body that we haven't discussed about yet and which we're at work on right now? So we're going to be doing a little bit more fundamental research. We're going to take that ODD, that orphan drug designation. We're going to use it. But before we push that forward, we want to be able to understand DMT a little bit more. And we're looking at possible other indications in which DMT could be used as an anti-inflammatory agent, specifically for organs that need it, on a more precise basis, that don't have medications out there right now that are helping alleviate those issues. So we're going to be we're already working on internal formulations, delivery mechanisms, and we're actually also working on more collaborations. We have a preclinical collaboration with the University of Michigan. We're working on a potential clinical collaboration with another university. There's so much going on, and it keeps evolving, keeps moving forward and expanding. And the next 3 to 4 months is going to have a lot of news and developments moving forward on initiatives we've already started. So it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot going on.
Just a regular 9-to-5 job, it sounds like, right?
It's nonstop. And that's why we had to bring Paul on, because Paul, obviously started with us at Serayo, and he started with saprophyrin, but he's had his own as a PhD, a CSO, clinical researcher, had his own personal fascination with psychedelics for 20 years now. So he jumped at the opportunity when we purchased Serayo to start developing a DMT strategy. And he's done such great work there that we need him full time. We need him, 26 hours a day. So that's why we brought him on. He's also going to help in the other divisions as well.
Research, obviously, needs no introduction within this industry. University of Michigan is a top tier, university in the world. So you talked about another institution that you're in talks with, same caliber of type of university of status. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in a different way. But yes, most definitely.
When you talk about orphan drug status with the FDA and getting approval, drum it down for me for people still learning within this space. When you see announcements like this and you're the only one, obviously on paper, that seems like a real big opportunity. Walk me through what this would mean later on down the road and how you have a huge advantage, let's say, over other competitors within the space.
The struggle here is that we're all doing such incredible research. There's a lot of competitors out there that we really respect and we believe that are doing some great research. The question becomes, at the end of the day, how do you make money, right?
Right.
How do you come up with a commercial product? And so, sometimes we're afraid, and some of the other guys might have, actual strategies on how they'll be able to commercialize something. But, if you find out that, a certain psychedelic is really helpful for a certain type of ailment, but that psychedelic is the way it is, then you can't put a patent on it, right? Yeah. And so that's one of the worries that we have. Now, when you have orphan drug status, you may already be using a drug that exists and there's prior art for, and you didn't produce anything new, but because it's orphan drug, you do get a protection from the FDA to use it solely for a certain amount of years. And that's one of the reasons why we love the orphan drug designation. The other reason as well is just that it's a cheaper process to be able to go through, for several reasons. A, the FDA fees are lower. B, obviously when you're doing a clinical study, it's an orphan drug. So it means that the clinical trial sample size is a lot smaller. So things of that sort. And yeah, when you come out on the other end, you get protection for a certain amount of years because it's an orphan drug. And the FDA is willing to respond a little bit more quickly as well. So there's several benefits to being able to go through the orphan drug program.
Here's something you might find interesting. Speaking to a doctor last week that's into this, alternative medicines with cannabis in addition to that psychedelics, I asked what compound he thinks within the next 12 months will be legalized. He says DMT. Do you A, believe that? And B, what does that present to you if that were the case?
Well, that's the whole point here. We don't believe that being able to find a use for DMT with DMT the way it is gonna be able to be patented, right? You're gonna have to be able to patent either a unique formulation of DMT that allows DMT to be used and be effective in a way that regular DMT isn't being able to use, or you have to find a delivery mechanism, whether it's actually a technology that helps you administer in a certain way, or some other way of getting it, introduced into the body in a way that, that the regular DMT methods don't work on. You got to be able to do that to be able to commercialize it. Though all that being said, I do think that legalization of DMT would be a true benefit for everyone, because it would make it a lot more prevalent and will make it have a lot more attraction and attention, and allow people to want to use it more readily. So we actually think that'd be a good thing for us overall.
Your other business model, as you said before in previous interviews, is focusing on the German market within the cannabis industry and online retail sales. Before we get into that, though, is biotech seeming to be the most interesting part of your platform right now? And as we look at, as you just said, a lot of these announcements that you're manufacturing, what do you anticipate this industry for the final 6 months? Because it looks very, very promising from what I'm seeing.
Well, I think biotech is going to be, for the foreseeable future, the main catalysts for the psychedelic space, right? We're a believer in biotech overall, but, specifically for psychedelic space, we think that's going to be the main driver over the next 6 months, because that's where a lot of work has already begun, and we're going to be getting a lot of results and developments over the next 6 months. In the longer term, I do think that we will have a recreational or adult use, probably a better term, aspect to it as well, but that takes more time for legalizations to occur. 100%. We're seeing movements towards decriminalization, but that's not the same thing as legalization.
No.
At some point, legalizations we believe will happen, which is part of our online initiative, which we can talk about next. But in the meantime, it's not yet legal. So I think it's going to be biotech side that's going to be pushing the psychedelic, concept or movement.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Thai going public, Compass
Yeah.
obviously with some of the feedback that they're gonna have, but,
Compass is going to have some great information in Q4, and we're really excited to see it.
that'll benefit everyone. Aren't you
Oh,
seeing
most
though
definitely. They're doing some great work.
aren't you seeing though in the last month or 2, it's an overall like, I'm seeing a big, talk industry as a whole, there's a lot more attention that is actually being generated, do you not think?
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of private companies that have raised a lot of money. So there's a
Yeah,
lot more going on than many people even realize. I just think that there's more and more credibility to the space, and the initial efforts to use psychedelics to be able to combat depression, anxiety, PTSD.
yeah,
People started to realize that there's a real effort there. But like I said, I think there's so much biomechanical research that needs to be done, and we're going to realize that there's even more benefits to psychedelics than just for psychiatric or psychological indications. And
yeah,
so I think the more research that gets done, the more we're realizing there's so much more potential. And the
which
more that happens, the more the public in general starts to understand that this is something true and
yeah.
something real.
Yeah, it's the right thing. Research
Yeah,
on the top. Let's focus our attention now, as I said before, Germany and your cannabis platform.
yeah.
Announcement you recently made entered into a supply agreement with an
Mhm.
undisclosed emerging Eurozone
Yeah.
cannabis extractor for medical grade THC oil to be sold under the Pharmadrug own brand.
Yeah.
So, quick question: how does the agreement complement the supply agreement for the EU GMP certified medical cannabis announced in February?
So there are two different announcements. So the first one is literally it's a company that's going through their own, corporate activity, and we can't really mention their name until they're
Yep.
finished that, and they have
Yep.
their new, strategy for IR and business relations, and that is a great contract for us and a great relationship for us. But it's us introducing yet another third party product, which we're excited about, but is not really why we're in Germany. We're in Germany because we want to be able to develop our own brand and take sales to the next level with our own brand. And then after that, being able to expand into other fields, potentially psychedelics. We're already looking into that. But this latest one that we announced, the reason why we didn't announce the name is, first of all, I don't think anybody would recognize the name. Secondly, we don't necessarily want everybody to know where we're going to be able to get product that we're going to be able to brand under Pharmadrug. Let us get that product into the market, and then let people figure out where we got it from. But so that's huge, because we're going to be able to introduce product THC oils in Germany under our own brand. And that's significant for three reasons. Firstly, we do have a product supply problem, which we will only be able to solve once we have complete control over the supply chain, and be able to do with that product what we want. Secondly, we want to be able to introduce our own brand, and that's going to be huge for us to introduce product in Germany under our name. And thirdly, what's really important here is that, like every market that introduces, medical cannabis or even recreational adult use cannabis starts with flower, 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 and then we see oil start to become a lot more
Yes,
important. Germany's right at that point now where you're starting to see oil become more important.
it's
And so
the
we're going to be able to come out with product under our own brand, where we have complete control over the supply chain and be able to have enough product, and
yeah.
it's going to be oil right when market is actually saying we want oil, not flour. And
Why
so
is
for
oil
those reasons, we're really excited.
oil is developing everywhere I see right now.
Yeah,
Europe, you're seeing even in places like China, which is
yeah,
crazy. But
yeah.
why do you think it's garnering a lot of attention right now?
It makes a lot more sense from a medical standpoint. I mean, from a recreational or adult use standpoint, it can be quite useful. If you want to get into to different delivery mechanisms like vapes and things of that sort. But if you're using it to go to sleep, or if you're using it for ailments or things of that sort, like just having it in oil makes a lot more sense, because you can
Yeah.
dose it a lot better. When it's flour, it's very, very difficult to dose. Every flower's got a different strength, and then how much of it do you smoke, and then things of that sort. With oil, it's a lot more calculatable.
Yeah.
It's very easy to find a dose and to find out how long that dose lasts for. It's hard to do that with flower.
Let me ask you, when it
Yeah,
comes to Germany and
yeah,
branding,
yeah.
give me a comparison. What are some of the challenges that you face within Germany, or what's different over there versus, say, here in North America, more specifically in Canada?
Well, first of all, Germany is still medical, right? It's fully medical, right? So so that that makes it a little bit different in terms of how you want to brand. Secondly, because it's medical, and the bee farm has higher standards than most other countries, being able to have product that meets the standards of the regulator in Germany are extremely difficult. There's a glut of cannabis in Canada. It's not showing up in Germany. Very little of that product is showing up in Germany because A, the majority of Canadian product doesn't meet German standards, and B, even the larger companies that have facilities that meet the standards, they still have to worry about how much product they can get over to Germany, and then the ability to be able to for it to travel and still be of the right standard criteria when they get tested when they land in Germany. So to be able to have product under our own brand that meets the criteria of the German regulator, to have it in Europe where we could just drive it over, it makes it a lot better in terms of supply chain management. It makes it a lot better in terms of being able to introduce our own brand and feeling comfortable that that product is there.
That's big, really
Yeah.
big. How much runway time do you think you have? Because I assume that the country eventually will open up their doors to more opportunities, but is that accurate to say? Or what do you think as far as, that quote unquote first mover advantage that you have, knowing that you're already into the country, developing
Yeah.
your brands and they're available?
Yeah, I think we'll have a good year and a half before more products start showing up. I do think that it's just a matter of time before the Europeans supply themselves fully. And so that's, Denmark is up and coming right now. We know that Spain and Portugal have been at work, and those are the two main areas. There are other areas that are going to be, introducing their own production as well. But it's a matter of time before there is more suppliers within the European Union, but we're in the European Union ourselves. And this relationship that we've created with this Danish extractor is an example of the fact that we can continue to capitalize on being there and being able to do deals with Europeans. I think at the end of the day, Canada's kind of missed its opportunity to be a supplier to the world. In my opinion, I think that, supply is going to be more.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's focus our attention now on your online retail platform, Super Smart. Big announcement. You'd said recently that Super Smart Slim Winkle, which is an online retail platform in the US that will focus on functional mushrooms. So how does this, the company itself plan to compete and differentiate itself against the growing competition among functional mushroom companies in the US, because this is a growing trend rapidly?
Oh, it's a huge growing trend. And, look, at first, we want to be able to differentiate ourselves by introducing our brand and being able to add added value information on the website. Our initial set of products are curated. They're higher quality than what we believe is most of the product out there, but that's not enough. We're going to have to spend the next 6 months adding to that product, continuing to look for the best product out there, and most importantly, introducing our own product, right? So this is what we launched last week is not the be all end all. It's the first step. In fact, it's probably even just batting practice. We have to be able to add a lot more product, and we have to be able to introduce our own product. And the reason why we also got this started is that we are of the view that, it's going to start with decriminalization, but then it's going to move to legalization. And at some point, the psychedelic truffles and mushrooms will be legal in our view. And if we already have a brand and a distribution channel, then we'll be able to capitalize on it a lot more quickly. We also felt that it made a lot more sense.
How does that help then? If you have your model in the Netherlands, we are already selling truffles now through this same retail platform. In the event it does legalize in the US within a year, 2 years, who knows?
Yeah.
How does that benefit you, obviously, with your blueprint already in place in the Netherlands?
Well, because we'll have brand already set. So if we have a bricks and mortar supply chain set up and an online retail platform already set up in the Netherlands that sells psychedelic truffles, and we're completely experienced with the supply chain, and we already have that brand existed in the United States with functional mushrooms, then you can understand that being able to flip the switch on being able to also sell and brand psychedelic products in the US will be quite easy. So this is really the whole effort on the functional mushrooms starts off the fact that we want to push our brand. Secondly, we do believe in functional mushrooms. But thirdly, we also believe that there will be a point in time in the not too distant future, I don't know if it's a year or 5 years, but at some point where psychedelic mushrooms will be allowed, and we'll be able to capitalize on our brand, not just because we have a functional mushroom brand, but that brand also already has psychedelic products in Europe and the Netherlands.
Do you think a lot of companies in the US, there's still a big focal point on brick and mortar. CPG, it's a very competitive industry, especially within this industry right now, and it's rapidly growing. So, is that a strategy in play, or is it strictly just, focusing on the retail online platform for the foreseeable
No,
future?
so look, let's call a spade. The lockdown in the Netherlands was a lot harsher and longer than what we thought it was going to be, and
Yeah.
so we started with a bricks and mortar strategy. We bought our first store, but like I'll be honest here, we put that on hold for a bit, just because the lockdown just made no sense for us to go and acquire stores or open stores. But as we are seeing the opening up begin, our first move will be to find a premium location in Amsterdam. We've already found 3 or 4. We want to make sure it's the right one. We want to negotiate the right rent, and then we'll open a major flagship location. And at some point, we may do that in the U.S. as well for the functionals, to be able to, I don't believe that a pure bricks and mortar strategy is the way to go, but I don't think that it's something you want to ignore either. It's going to be some kind of mix between the online and the bricks and mortar. So we're going to move forward, and we will execute on a bricks and mortar strategy in the Netherlands. And we're also toying with the idea now, or contemplating introducing a limited but real bricks and mortar presence for the functional mushrooms in the US, most likely in California.
Last thing I wanted to ask you, focusing on the Netherlands, what's the overall market demand right now with the psychedelic truffles, which obviously you have access to? But I'd like to get an idea, like, where do things sit? I know we've had a few conversations with that in the past, but
Yeah,
what's your take on it all?
the Netherlands isn't the largest country, right? At the end of the day, I think we can make some good money. We can have some real market share in the Netherlands, and we can probably reach, I don't want to put out figures right now because it's still early, but there are hundreds of millions of dollars in the industry right now in the Netherlands. That's for the full market pie. I'm at the end of the day, Netherlands is the place where we can build the model and get to profitability, but really build the model so we can execute in other jurisdictions once they get open. I'm not going to sit here and promise you that this is going to be a $1 billion market cap just because of the Netherlands. The reality is that we're going to want other jurisdictions to be able to open up for that side to get to that level. But in the meantime, we're pushing through on the US, like I said, and we have we have Germany, and we have the biotech efforts. So we do believe that our market cap and the value of our company is going to go extremely higher over the next 6 months, 12 months, and so on and so forth. But it's going to be a combined effort, and it's all building blocks.
Well, I see, obviously, what I'm seeing more as you build this narrative out, you have early entry into a lot of these,
Yeah,
emerging markets within the categories that you're in, which it's what it's all about, whether you get
yeah,
bought out later on down the road, but you get runway time in these industries for a year, 18 months, 2 years. It's
yeah.
a long time
We
in a lot
just
of other industries, right?
One of our problem right now isn't not knowing what to do. It's that we just got to keep executing. And
Yeah.
so, probably over the next 6 months, 12 months, we're going to be adding more people to help us execute, because
Yeah.
we have a lot of great ideas and a lot of great initiatives started. And it's just about continuing to move them along. And, as you've seen over the past 3-4 months, we've been moving at a furious pace.
Yeah.
And some divisions moving faster than others. Yes, but all of them indeed moving forward. And this is a much different company than where we were last year. And so, to be able to continue, we're going to want to add to people over the next 6 months to 12 months. And that was part of the reason why we brought Paul on for full-time chief scientific officer.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Let's bring that up. And I was going to like wrap things up, but let's ask him one more time. Why did that acquisition make sense? And how did the whole relationship and conversations begin? And what does he do as far as advancing the company?
Well, so right off the bat, we bought Serayo for 2 reasons. Firstly,
Yeah.
because we actually love Cefarenthine, and like people are like, well, why'd you pay that price? The reality is that if we wanted to develop that Cefarenthine, it would have cost us, more than our purchase price. So there's a replacement cost of that formulation Cefarenthine, which is actually higher than the purchase price. But we also really wanted to build internal biotech capabilities, and we did that quite well with Serayo, not just with the founders who continue to help us, but Paul, we realized quite quickly was extremely talented, extremely intelligent, and he himself had room to grow. So while he focused at first with ceforenthine, he helped us devise the DMT strategy. He's a big part of the execution that we've done so far on the DMT strategy, and those initiatives got so advanced that we needed on a more full-time basis. But he himself has been a mushroom forager for 20 years, loves mushrooms, loves functional mushrooms, and there's a lot that he can help us on the super smart side and the slim winkle side in terms of being able to add to that product line and help us find different products that meet certain standards. And he can help in Germany as well. And could we take the German platform and introduce other products beyond cannabis? So there's a lot that he can do with us, and you're going to see him grow over the next 6 to 12 months and take on more responsibilities, and maybe we'll hire people under him, right?
Awesome work. Appreciate the update. Let's keep it.
With that, we never even talked about ceforenthine, but we can leave that for the next time because there's a lot going on there as well.
You know what? We'll get you on again in 2 weeks. Forget this once a month thing. We got to have you on. All right, Daniel. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, it was great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, take care.